He sensed something was about to change. He stood firm, ready to face it, eyes searching, waiting for a sign. But sometimes, the answers come from where you least expect.
Hey designers, in this video, we are going to create cinematic camera movement on still images in After Effects. It is going to be a very beginner-friendly tutorial, so without wasting any time, let's get started. Start by creating a new composition. Let's import the files. If you want these files, I am going to provide you with a link. So let's import them and drag and drop them onto the timeline. Now select the JPEG layers. JPEG layers are the ones that are the background layers. Select them one by pressing the Control key and move them downwards. Now create a new camera layer and press OK. Now let's make the layers 3D as well. Let's change the view from one view to two views. We will now distribute these layers. Select one PNG and one JPEG. One PNG is the man, and the one JPEG is the background. So select both of them like this, and let's move their X position to create some distance. Now select the second PNG and second JPEG, and move them as well. Make sure there is almost equal distance between each of them. Now the third one will stay here. Select the fourth PNG and fourth JPEG, and move them as well, so that there is enough distance between all of these. Now, select all of these background layers, and let's move their position backward like this. The view is set to top view, so we're going to move the background layers backward in space. After this, press S to open the scale properties and increase the size of each background image so that it properly fits the composition. Once that's done, adjust the position of the last set, the fourth PNG and fourth JPEG, so that there's a good amount of distance between the third PNG and third JPEG and the fourth PNG and fourth JPEG. Now, let's start animating. Select the camera layer, go to its properties, open the transform options, and click on the stopwatch icon next to point of interest and position to create keyframes. Then press U so you only see the properties you're animating. Now, at this point in the timeline, move the X position of the camera so that the first PNG and first JPEG come into frame. Now move the bar indicator a few frames forward and add a blank keyframe here because at this point we want the picture to remain stationary. Then move the bar indicator a few more frames forward and change the X position of the camera so that it moves to the second JPEG and second PNG. Again, move the bar indicator forward by a few frames and add a blank keyframe, as we want the second image to stay still at this point. Now move the bar indicator a few frames forward and move the X position of the camera to the third, PNG and third JPEG. Move the bar indicator ahead again and add a blank keyframe here as well. Then move the bar indicator a few more frames forward and move the camera to the last PNG and JPEG. Once again, move the bar indicator forward by a few frames and add blank keyframes so the last image also stays still for a moment. Now, let's preview the animation. If needed, we can adjust the timing and flow of the animation. Now, select the keyframes where the image is stationary. specifically the second keyframe, fourth keyframe, sixth keyframe, and eighth keyframe. Move these keyframes slightly to the right to create a bit of a pause, making the transitions feel slower and more natural. Next, select all the keyframes, and while holding the last keyframe, press and hold the Alt key, then drag the last keyframe towards the right. This will proportionally slow down the entire animation, making it feel more cinematic. Now, if you feel that the animation has become a bit too slow, you can again hold Alt and drag the last keyframe to a shorter point, like around the 18th second mark, to speed things up slightly. I think this current speed looks good. Now, let's create a new null object, and make sure to parent the camera layer to this null object. Select the null object and make it 3D. Then go to its properties. We'll be using position and orientation here. Now go to the second keyframe of the camera layer and click the stopwatch next to position and orientation on the null object to create keyframes. If you had already created the keyframes earlier, just move them to match the timing of the second keyframe of the camera layer. Now move the bar indicator to the point where the second JPEG and PNG become stationary, and add a blank keyframe on this null object for both position and orientation. Then move the bar indicator to the point where the third JPEG and PNG become stationary, and again, add blank keyframes on the null object for both position and orientation. Do the same for the last image when the fourth JPEG and PNG become stationary. Add a blank keyframe on both position and orientation of the null object. This way, we've added blank keyframes at all the points where the images pause, and there is no camera transition happening. Now move the bar indicator back to the first frame, and let's adjust the position, specifically the X and Y values, to make the camera appear closer. We are not going to change the orientation. In fact, I'm not sure why I added keyframes for orientation earlier, so to fix that, just click the stopwatch next to orientation to remove all of its keyframes. We're only working with position now. Move the bar indicator to the first keyframe and adjust the null object's position values as needed. After that, move the bar indicator to the third keyframe of the camera layer, and here we'll adjust the X, Y, and Z position of this null one. Once that's done, move the bar indicator to the fifth keyframe of the camera layer, and again change the null object's position to fine-tune how you want the animation to look. When it reaches this point, adjust it to your preference for the best visual result. Now move to the seventh keyframe of this camera 1 layer, and here we'll adjust the X, Y, and Z position of this null one. How you change these values is totally up to you. The way you modify them will directly affect how the animation appears on screen, and then it will return back to its original position. Remember, we had added blank keyframes earlier at the stationary points, so that the original framing doesn't shift unintentionally during transitions. Once all of these position animations have been set up, let's preview the animation to see how everything flows and identify any areas that might need adjustment. Let's now refine the values of the third keyframe. We'll make it move from a close-up to a slightly pulled back position to add more depth. After previewing, it's looking much better now. However, when the fourth PNG appears on screen, the framing looks a bit off, so let's adjust its position to make it feel more balanced and cinematic. Remember, it's not necessary to copy my exact position values, you can tweak them according to what looks best to you. Let's preview the animation once again to confirm everything feels smooth. Now that our movement is looking good, it's time to add the text. Now let's add the text. For that, select the Text tool and make sure your bar indicator is on the first frame. This will be the text that appears on the first image. Paste your text here, then adjust the paragraph spacing, alignment, font, and font size to make it visually appealing. For this example, let's use the Arial rounded font. It looks clean and cinematic. Adjust the size of the text so it fits well in the frame, and also change the preview quality from quarter to full so we get a clearer view while working. Now, make this text layer 3D. With the text layer selected, press Ctrl plus Home on your keyboard to bring it to the center of the composition at the current frame. Then, adjust its position manually and place it exactly where you think it looks best on the screen. Now preview the animation. Great. It looks good. Apply your animation to this text layer. With the text layer selected, press U to view its keyframes. Move the second keyframe closer to the first one to make the animation faster. Now select both of these keyframes and press F9 to ease them for smoother motion. Next, move the bar indicator to the point where the second JPEG appears on the screen. Use the Text tool again to write your next line of text. Adjust the paragraph spacing and decide where on the screen this text should appear. Make this new text layer 3D as well, and press Ctrl plus Home to center it at that specific frame. Finally, adjust the position of this second text layer so it aligns well with the second image in the composition. Select Null One and press U to view its keyframes. Move the bar indicator to the point where the second image becomes stationary. This is important because, at this point, the camera comes in for a close-up, and if we don't adjust the text accordingly, it might get cut off or appear off-screen. So keep this in mind while adjusting the text position. Let's also reduce the size of the text slightly to make sure it fits nicely within the frame. Now move the bar indicator a few frames backward to find the ideal starting point for the text animation. I think this point looks good, so at this frame, apply the typewriter effect to the second text layer. Press U to see the keyframes of the text animation, and move the second keyframe closer to the first one to make the typewriter effect play a bit faster. Perfect. It's looking just right. Now the third PNG comes onto the screen, so let's repeat the process. Take the text tool and paste your third line of text. Adjust the paragraph spacing. Increase the font size slightly to make it stand out. And make this text layer 3D. Press Ctrl plus Home to bring it to the center of the composition. Then, manually adjust its position to fit the third image perfectly. Once you're happy with the placement, apply the typewriter effect to this text layer as well, and adjust the keyframes so that the animation looks smooth and well-timed. Great. Now it's looking perfect. Finally, let's move on to the last image and add the final line of text. On the last image, paste the text and make this text layer 3D. Press Ctrl plus Home to bring it to the center of the composition. Now adjust the position of the text wherever you feel it looks best. Apply the typewriter effect to this text layer and adjust its keyframes so that the animation plays smoothly and fits within the scene's timing. Once again, fine-tune the position if needed. Okay, now all the text layers are complete. Select all of these text layers together. Go to Effects, search for Drop Shadow, and apply it to each text layer to make the text stand out more against the background. Our final step is to add something in between the black areas that appear when the transition is happening, just to keep the flow smooth. To do this, choose an image and drag and drop it onto the timeline. This will fill in those blank spots and enhance the visual continuity of the animation. Go to Effects and Presets, search for Tint, and apply it to this layer. We want to slightly tint this layer so that it matches the overall color tone of the other images in the animation. Press R to open the rotation settings and rotate the layer by 90 degrees. After that, enable 3D for this layer by clicking the 3D switch. This will allow us to position it in 3D space. Change the view from one view to two views so we can clearly see both the active camera and the top view. In the top view, move the layer's position so that it appears between the first and second image layers. This will help it appear during the transition phase. Then, press S for Scale, and scale it up so that it covers the screen completely. Let's check to see if it's placed correctly. No, it's not. So move it slightly to the left side to cover the black areas that are showing. Preview the transition. When the second image appears, we're still seeing some black spaces, which we don't want. So now, Carefully adjust both the position and scale of this transition layer until all black spaces are fully removed and the flow between the first and second image looks clean and seamless. Okay, let's press S for scale and increase the size of this image so that it fully covers the area between the first and second JPEGs, making sure it touches both sides. Next, select this layer and press Ctrl+D to duplicate it. Move the bar indicator to the point where the second image is transitioning into the third, where the black space appears in between. Now take the duplicated layer and place it in the center of this transition area. There's still a little black space visible, so adjust the position of this image layer so that it's placed exactly in the middle of both frames. That looks much better now. Let's move forward and duplicate this image again. Scrub through the timeline and stop at the point where the third image is transitioning into the fourth. Place this duplicated image in the center of that transition area as well. If there's still black space visible, adjust the position accordingly. If changing the position alone doesn't fix it, we can always scale it up later. First, try adjusting the position, and if the problem is still there, then increase the scale to fully cover the gaps. Now let's preview the whole animation from start to end to make sure everything flows smoothly and there are no gaps left. Now let's preview the full animation. I hope this video was helpful and that you learned something new. If you did, please like this video, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Ace Designs for more content like this.
He sensed something was about to change. He stood firm, ready to face it. Eyes searching, waiting for a sign. But sometimes, the answers come from where you least expect.